This is a Dynamite Network podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Dynamic Duel podcast, a weekly show where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters and stat-based battle simulations. I'm Marvelous Joe.
And I'm his twin brother, Johnny DC. And if I sound like ass, it's because I am
Because you are
sick.
one.
No.
Yeah, Jonathan is sick. He's always sick. No one's surprised.
Well, that's not fair. I feel like I haven't been sick in a long time.
Well, you better get unsick because this is a big episode. In this matchup, we're going to find out who would win in a fight between the teams of the WildCATs and the Inhumans. Now, I don't know much about the WildCATs, but I know much about the Inhumans, and they're one of the coolest, I think, most overlooked teams in all of Marvel, and the stupid WildCATs are going down.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't know much about the WildCATs either. This is the first time we're doing a Duel episode in the history of our 10 years, where I have really no reference for these characters, because when I first started reading comics, the WildCATs team were published by Image until the whole Wildstorm universe was acquired by DC Comics.
Are they Image or Wildstorm?
Well, Wildstorm was an imprint of Image.
So they started out in Image, they went to Wildstorm, and now they went to DC.
No, they've always been Wildstorm.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about then. Are they DC or not? This is a DC versus Marvel podcast. Clear this up for me.
Yes, they are now DC.
Okay, thank you. That's all I needed to know. But also, I don't fucking care because I may as well have not even heard of this team when they get their asses kicked later on this episode. Before we get into that matchup, we're going to break down the latest comic book movie news that came out this past week, of which there was just one news item, and that is, it has been confirmed by The Hollywood Reporter that Deadpool is going to be in Avengers Doomsday.
As always, we list our segment times in our episode description, so feel free to check out the show notes if you want to skip ahead to a particular topic.
Guys, our artificially intelligent duel simulator, AJ9K, has a quick message for our listeners, so listen up.
Why, hello there. Do you want even more from this podcast? Then become a part of the Dynamic Duel community on Patreon, where you can choose from 3 tiers. The Dynamic 2.0 tier gives you access to our Discord chat server, the Fantastic 4 tier gives you 2 bonus episodes each month, and the X-Force tier makes you an executive producer of this show. Lastly, the Dynamite Podcast Network tier lets you create your own podcast using this Monte Carlo simulator. Johnny and Joe will help you develop your show, provide graphic support and consultation, and get you simulation results. Pitch the twins your ideas via email at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com. Check it out at patreon.com/dynamicduel. Pip pip cheerio.
Thanks, AJ9K, and thanks to everyone who supports the podcast.
Be sure to tune into the other shows in the Dynamite Podcast Network this week, including the Console Combat Podcast, where hosts John and Dean simulate battles between popular video game characters. In yesterday's episode, the two determined who would win between Colonel Volgin from Metal Gear and Kessler from Infamous.
Over on the Max Destruction podcast, hosts Scotty and Gilly pit your favorite action heroes from film and television against each other. They're taking a hiatus during the month of August, so make sure to get caught up on their latest episodes.
And on the Senjo World podcast, host Zachary Hepburn speculates on fights between fan-favorite anime and manga characters. In his next episode, Zach's going to reveal who would win between Akudosai from Demon King Daimo and Amos Voldegode from Misfit of Demon Academy.
Visit dynamicpodcasts.com or click the link in our show notes to listen to all of the shows in the Dynamite Podcast Network.
But with that out of the way,
quick to the No Prize. A No Prize is an award that Marvel used to give out to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award that we post on Instagram for the person that we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week.
Last week, we asked you guys, what is your favorite supporting cast in a Marvel or DC ensemble television series and why? And we got 2 answers for this because it was a horrible question. I blame Jonathan. He's the one that came up with the question. What kind of question was this? Nobody wants to answer about supporting cast in superhero television series.
I mean, I do.
Well, you and 2 others, apparently. Let's go ahead and get into our honorable mention before revealing our No Prize winner. Our honorable mention goes to Lorenzo Valdez, who said,
My favorite supporting cast from a Marvel or DC show is the cast of Smallville. Now, that cast changed a lot over the course of 10 seasons, but if we're going to specify, I would say the Season 2 and Season 3 cast. Now, I'd give this answer just because of Lana, but also, of course, we've got Lex, Pete, Chloe, Lionel, Martha, and Jonathan. Klana forever and always, bye-bye.
Now, Jonathan, I gotta ask you, Kristen Crook as Lana Lang, overrated or underrated?
I don't know, maybe somewhere in the middle. I would say that Erica Durance as Lois Lane was better, and I think it's kind of evident how she became the fan favorite as the series progressed. But I will agree that the ensemble that Smallville had as a series throughout its entire run was really good. And particularly the early seasons, I was absolutely hooked on. Like, I went through high school the same time that Clark did during that series. And after high school, I kind of fell off with the show. But I'll always have fond memories of Smallville and all of its cast members.
I remember liking Chloe more than Lana. Had a little bit of crush on Chloe when I was a teen. And hopefully the actress Allison Mack is out of prison now.
That whole cult thing was really awkward, I think, for all Smallville fans.
But great answer, Lorenzo. The winner of this week's Snow Prize, though, is Alex Albro. Who said?
Hey guys, I think the best supporting cast is definitely in Miss Marvel. You have Nakia, who walks through life with Kamala and just has a lot of shared experience. And Bruno is kind of the respectful, shy love interest and, supports them culturally in all that they're doing and in their difficulties in school. And you feel real stakes when the convenience store blows up and you're worried about them. Not to mention her family, her parents and her brother. They add so much to the story and the culture, and you get excited to see them in other things like Daredevil just as much as you do the main character. So, yeah, it's Miss Marvel for me. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't really consider my own personal answer to this question when we first asked it, but I have to say that this would probably be my answer too. In the comic books, Kamala Khan's family is a huge part of her story, and the show was no exception. There was such a good cast of characters, they showed up again in the Marvels movie, and her dad Yusuf also appeared in the Daredevil Born Again television series. There's a reason they keep popping up. It's because they're such rich characters.
Honestly, her family kind of made that show, so it made me really like the show, because I'm not sure I would have otherwise. The family was fun, but it also felt real.
Right. They were funny, they provided great cultural insight, they really gave Kamala a hard time as she's struggling to be this superhero. Good times. If you guys haven't seen the Miss Marvel television show, I definitely recommend it. And then go listen to our review of it. But congrats to Alex for winning this week's No Prize. If you, the listener, want a shot at winning your own No Prize, stay tuned to later on this episode when we'll be asking another question of the week. And now that that's done,
on to the news.
All right, this past week it was revealed by The Hollywood Reporter. They have like a sub-news beat that focuses on superhero stuff called Heat Vision. They produced a newsletter that confirmed that Deadpool will be appearing in Avengers Doomsday. And this was partially supported by their sources as well as Ryan Reynolds' own Instagram post, where he posted an image of the Avengers logo that has a red anarchy symbol pasted over it. So this is exciting news. However, the sources don't expect that Deadpool will be joining the Avengers, more that he'll have a minor role within that film.
Which makes you wonder, like, Ryan Reynolds is a big name. Why wasn't he included in the initial cast reveal?
With the chairs, that's a great question. It's most likely because the character is a late addition to the script.
Does that bother you?
A little bit. I like these scripts to be finalized before they even begin production. Otherwise, I think they kind of film themselves into a hole, as it were, and then you have to deal with reshoots and all that stuff. But the Marvel machine is always chugging along, and sometimes they have to make quick decisions on the fly. I think adding Ryan Reynolds is kind of like an insurance policy, ensuring that people who are fans of the Deadpool franchise will come see Avengers Doomsday, because Deadpool and Wolverine earned $1 billion at the box office. That franchise makes money. And in a climate where movies aren't making that much money anymore in theaters, you want to ensure that people are getting their butts in those seats.
I'm really excited by this news. I think Ryan Reynolds is a marketing genius, and him combined with the return of Robert Downey Jr., whose creative instincts I think are largely responsible for the success of the MCU. Those two combined, I think will do really well for Avengers Doomsday.
Yeah, hopefully. I don't know how involved Ryan Reynolds will be in the marketing of Avengers Doomsday. I think it will largely depend on the size of his role within the film. But that brings us to our question of the week. What do you think Deadpool's involvement in the Avengers Doomsday story will be? Do you think he'll have his own arc? Do you think it'll be just a glorified cameo? Will he show up and say, "This isn't where I parked my car," and then exit frame? Let us know how you think it'll go down.
Record your answer at dynamicduel.com by clicking on the red microphone button in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, which will prompt you to leave us a voicemail. Your message could be up to 30 seconds long, and don't forget to leave your name in case we include you on the podcast. We'll pick our favorite answer and award that person a Dynamic Duel No Prize that we'll post to Instagram. Be sure to answer before August 30th.
But that does it for all the news for this episode, so let's go ahead and move into our main event, where we find out who would win in a fight between the teams of the WildCATs and the Inhumans. All right, WildCATs versus Inhumans. Why did we pit these teams against each other? Well, because our executive producers wanted us to, and also, it's not a bad option. These are both really powerful teams.
Yeah, plus both teams have ancient ties to an alien race that has been trying to influence Earth, so there's some thematic connections here as well.
Right, the Inhumans have ties to the Kree aliens who experimented on ancient man in an attempt to turn them into warriors for their interstellar conquests. The Inhumans are descendants of those experiments.
And a majority of the WildCATs characters are actually descendants or hybrids of an ancient race known as the Caribim. Caribim from the planet Kara.
Sounds like a pretty interesting story. Do you know who created the WildCATs? Was it Jim Lee?
Yeah, I believe it was Jim Lee. He was one of the founders of Image and was like the main guy who oversaw Wildstorm. That's how he got the job as the publisher of DC Comics.
Yeah, I like the look of the team. Jim Lee's a great artist. I like the power set variety. Both of these teams have a good mix of different kinds of powers, and I think our speculation is going to be a lot of fun just seeing how these different abilities clash against each other.
Yeah, the WildCATs definitely suffer from sort of that 90s extremism where they're sort of like overly violent and all trying to be like Wolverine. But they are pretty damn cool. They were really popular in the 90s, so much so that they even had their own animated series, which will be much more fondly remembered than the Inhumans show.
You're not wrong. Where did the WildCat series air?
CBS.
Interesting. Was it a kids' cartoon?
Yeah, it was like a kids' Saturday morning show.
I had to know how that got past us as 90s kids.
Yeah, we didn't really watch it. We were more Fox and WB kids.
Yeah. And sometimes Nickelodeon, too. One of these days, the Inhumans will get a television series worthy of their stories in the comics. But to explain the methodology behind our duels, let's go to our sentient duel simulator, Alfred Jarvis 9000. AJ9K, tell our listeners how you go about determining a winner in our duel matchups.
Yes, of course, sir. The way I determine a winner between the two teams is by running 1,000 Monte Carlo simulations between every character on each team using their statistics. A Monte Carlo simulation is a probabilistic model used to determine outcomes through random sampling. In this case, I randomize the statistics along a normal distribution as a way to simulate the many variables that can occur during battle. The stat parameters are based on the official Marvel Power Grid, from which the DC characters' statistics are extrapolated. Additional stat categories are included such as range, damage potential, versatility, and perception in order to create a more detailed and accurate simulation. The results of the 49,000 simulations provide a percentage of wins for each character on both teams. The team with the higher average win rate is declared the victor, as they have a higher probability to win any given battle. In an equitable pairing, neither team should win 100% of the matches. The comic book stories have shown that there's even a way for Batman to defeat Superman, so the confidence rate of my method falls in line with the precedents that have been established in the source material. My mathematical simulations are without subjectivity or bias. Feats are not the sole consideration, nor are fan votes tabulated for determination of the winner.
Thanks, AJ9K. Before we run the simulations, though, we like to break down each team's histories and rosters before improvising a scenario on how we imagine one of the thousands of simulations would play out beat for beat. And it's my turn to go first on the DC end, so let me tell you all about the WildCATs. Now, long ago, Earth became a hidden battleground in a war between two alien races, the immortal, noble Caribim and the parasitic, malevolent Daemonites. After a disastrous space battle brought both species crashing to Earth, many cherubim assimilated into human society, while the Daemonites sought to dominate it from the shadows. Millennia later, a cherubim noble named Jacob Marlowe, known in covert circles as Lord Imp, recognized the re-emerging Daemonite threat resurfacing and assembled a team of enhanced individuals to oppose it. He named the group the Wild Covert Action Teams, or WildCATs. The original lineup included Spartan, a synthezoid with enhanced strength and tactical prowess, Zealot, a deadly Coda warrior and centuries-old cherubim, Grifter, a gunslinger and former Black Ops agent with psionic potential, Maul, a cherubim-human hybrid titanthrope who could increase his size at the cost of his intellect, Warblade, a martial artist whose hands could morph into blades, and Voodoo, a young woman able to perceive and exorcise Daemonites from human hosts. The team was empowered and guided by Void, a mysterious woman who could teleport and sense dimensional rifts. Operating out of a nondescript skyscraper in New York, the WildCATs conducted covert missions to stop Daemonite infiltration and protect humanity from the larger Cherubim-Daemonite conflict. Early enemies included the Daemonite warlord Hellspont, who had aligned with corrupt elements of the US government, and his lieutenant Hightower. As the team exposed deeper conspiracies, they stumbled upon an ancient cherubim starship buried on Earth. While investigating it, the ship launched them into space and delivered them to Kara, the cherubim homeworld. On Kara, the team discovered that the supposed utopia was built upon the enslavement of the Daemonites and a rigid caste system that persecuted hybrids. Disillusioned, Voodoo left the team. Marlowe, likewise shaken, stepped away from leadership. Spartan, Grifter, Maul, and Zealot returned to Earth, where a new WildCATs unit had been assembled in their absence under the Halo Corporation, Marlowe's front company headquartered in a secure Manhattan tower. This new team, led by Savant and the cherubim warlord Mr. Majestic, whose powers rivaled those of Superman, included Max Cash, Grifter's brother, codenamed Condition Red, the psychic cyborg Ladytron, and the enigmatic tactician Tau. With Halo's resources, the WildCATs shifted to targeting organized crime and rogue metahumans, using a sophisticated virtual prison system to contain their enemies. Tau's manipulations, however, instigated a massive gang war. The original WildCATs returned to assist, but Tau's betrayal culminated in an explosion at Clark's Bar, a neutral hub for superhumans, also known as post-humans. The event fractured alliances and destabilized the post-human community. Tau faked his death by substituting a shapeshifter in his place, escaping capture. Meanwhile, Marlowe underwent a transformation, merging Void's essence into his synthezoid body. Renaming himself Jack Marlowe, he took control of Halo and shifted its mission from defense to societal reform. From Halo's high-tech headquarters in Los Angeles, the new WildCATs released groundbreaking technologies, like self-recharging batteries, clean vehicles, and anti-surveillance devices that destabilized global power structures. Marlowe employed Grifter as his personal enforcer, alongside Agent Wax of the National Park Service and a reprogrammed Ladytron. Halo accountant Edwin Dolby joined the field team as Grifter's trainee, learning combat and espionage in the field. WildCATs confronted cyber assassins, corrupt government agencies, and rogue Coda operatives. Zealot, thought dead, was rescued by Grifter's strike team from a hidden mountain monastery. Internal conflict simmered when Noir, one of Marlowe's advisors, attempted to seize Halo's extra-dimensional energy for himself. Marlowe stopped him, ensuring Halo's continued dominance as a force for change. During the Worldstorm era, after DC acquired the Wildstorm characters, the WildCATs regrouped to face a re-emergent Daemonite threat, as Hellspont allied with Kaizen Gamora. Marlowe gathered Zealot, Grifter, Voodoo, Savant, Ladytron, and Mr. Majestic, and their headquarters became a Halo-powered orbital station. Warblade operated undercover, and Maul remained in retirement. Shortly after, global catastrophe struck, an event known as World's End. The moon shattered, Earth's magnetic field destabilized, and civilization collapsed. The Halo building in Los Angeles survived, however, as its batteries kept lights and hope alive. With Void's power gone from Spartan, now called Hadrian, the team focused on humanitarian relief. They rescued survivors, fended off scavengers, and turned Halo into a safe haven. Majestic established a breakaway Caribbean enclave in Hawaii and began raiding Halo's supplies. Tensions escalated but eased after an uneasy truce allowed survivors to migrate to Majestic's colony. New tensions emerged when the WildCATs learned Majestic was harvesting DNA from captives, including savants, to create a genetically superior Caribbean race. Nemesis, a sword-wielding Caribbean warrior, sacrificed herself to destroy the facility. At the same time, Lord Defile, a Daemonite warlord, broke the peace and led an assault on Halo. The team opened a gateway to other space, sacrificing their building and themselves to eliminate both Defile and Majestic's threat. Surviving members regrouped with John Lynch of Team 7 to oppose Tau once more. Now wielding cosmic power stolen from Void and Providence, Tau sought godhood. Their efforts failed until a final confrontation on a remote island where Max Faraday, holder of the creation equation, had gone into hiding. Tau reached the equation and altered reality, but Ladytron had memorized the formula and helped the heroes regain control. In a surreal psychological realm, Grifter confronted Tau's inner void, his inability to feel connection or love. The confrontation weakened Tau, who was then shot and killed by Grifter. Faraday entrusted the heroes with new uniforms and tasked them with rebuilding the world. In DC's post-Flashpoint continuity, the WildCATs were reimagined as a secret strike force operated by the Halo Corporation to battle global corruption. The team's new focus was to dismantle clandestine organizations threatening Earth's stability, particularly the mysterious Leviathan. Grifter, masquerading as his dead brother Max Cash, infiltrated Leviathan to steal classified intelligence. Operating once again from the Halo building in Los Angeles, the team, composed of Grifter, Zealot, Voodoo, and a newly upgraded Ladytron, targeted Leviathan's assets and clashed with other global players, including the Court of Owls and secret divisions within Wayne Enterprises. You can of course learn more about the Court of Owls in our Talon vs. Nico Minoru duel. Grifter's infiltration led to confrontations with both Batman and Superman, who viewed the WildCATs' methods as reckless and destabilizing. Despite opposition, the team succeeded in extracting critical data and neutralizing a Leviathan strike team sent to eliminate them. After dismantling one of Leviathan's black sites in Egypt, the WildCATs traced a metahuman trafficking ring to Eastern Europe, where they discovered Daemonite genetic experiments being funded by remnants of Gamora's elite. Halo launched a covert rescue operation that liberated several hybrid children, prompting Zealot to re-establish her code of contacts in the Balkans for Sanctuary. Meanwhile, Grifter continued posing as Max Cash to infiltrate a rogue Leviathan cell embedded within Spiral, clashing with agents loyal to both Checkmate and Trust. During a raid in Gotham, Ladytron engaged a nanite-augmented assassin dispatched by the Court of Owls, confirming rumors of their expanded influence. Following these developments, the WildCATs relocated their operations to a fortified Halo facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, where they began investigating dimensional anomalies linked to the return of Void's energy signatures, suggesting a resurgence of the energy once believed lost. Now for my 7-person roster, I went with the original team that was also featured in the animated series, specifically Spartan, Warblade, Void, Voodoo, Maul, Grifter, and Zealot, which I also think presents a good balance against the Inhumans. To go into a bit of detail on each character once again, Spartan, the Caribbean android leader of the team, and essentially the Superman of the group, has enhanced strength, durability, and senses, as well as flight and bioplasma energy emission, among other android skills like technopathy and cloaking fields. Zealot, a centuries-old blade-wielding Coda warrior, has enhanced Caribbean physiology that grants superhuman strength, durability, senses, and a healing factor. She's like Wolverine. The Voodoo is a Caribbean Daemonite human hybrid with enhanced physicals, particularly when she shapeshifts into a demonic Daemonite form, though she also has psychic level perception known as Sight, the ability to freeze time for short periods, and she's a practitioner of voodoo magic who can raise zombies. Maul, a member of a Caribbean subspecies known as a Titanthrope, is a Nobel Prize-winning biochemist who can grow exponentially in size and strength, though at the cost of his intelligence. Warblade, a Caribbean subspecies hybrid known as a Shaper, can convert his body into a metallic substance that he can stretch and shape at will, often into bladed weapons. A non-cherubim related member of my team is Void, a powerful manipulator of space-time with abilities like teleportation, precognition, telekinesis, time travel, and quantum energy emission. And finally, Grifter, probably the most popular member of the team, is a sharpshooting tactician, martial artist, and demolitions expert whose exposure to modified alien DNA, known as Gen Factor, grants him telepathy, telekinesis, and a healing factor. And that's the WildCATs.
As you're going through their backstory, I thought of something I hadn't thought before. Is the name of Wildstorm a portmanteau of the WildCATs and Stormwatch?
Probably?
Cool. Thank you for that insight. That's a pretty interesting story, at least the first arc. As with any long-running team, the first arc is usually the best, and then because writers got to keep things going, they kind of lose their original focus. But I like the idea of how they started out very similarly to the Inhumans, where you have warring alien races fighting and involving humanity, and having superpowered beings stem from that. Great pairing. The executive producers probably already knew of this thematic tie-in. That's why it's great to have multiple minds pooled together in the formation of these duels.
Absolutely. Never would have thought of this match, but I'm really glad that we're doing it.
Well, let me get into the Inhumans backstory. The Inhumans are descendants of a group of ancient humans genetically experimented on by the alien race known as the Kree. Tens of thousands of years ago, the Kree spliced their own DNA into primitive man, hoping to create a superpowered race that could serve as soldiers in their interstellar wars. Eventually, the Kree abandoned the project where it was lost to time, but the altered humans, now Inhumans, remained, carrying with them a dormant potential through their Kree-modified DNA. Generations later, these early Inhumans discovered a strange extraterrestrial substance developed by the Kree called Terrigen. When refined into the Terrigen mists, it would activate their latent genetic enhancements and grant them extraordinary powers, a process known as Terrigenesis. Isolating themselves from the outside world and their more primitive human counterparts, the Inhumans built a hidden city called Attilan, where they formed a superpowered society governed by a monarchy obsessed with genetics. Their culture developed into a strict caste system where the most successful results of Terrigenesis rose in prominence and culminated in the royal family. However, Terrigenesis was unpredictable and in rare cases had catastrophic results. Those who emerged from the mists as deformed, subhuman throwbacks were called alpha primitives. They were condemned to a lower caste, forced to live underground. This harsh system cemented the Inhumans' genetic hierarchy, elevating the most gifted to the royal palace while relegating the most unfortunate underground. A strict human genetics council, a 12-member body chaired by the king, regulated Terrigenesis, mapped family lines, and even approved marriages. In the 20th century, King Aegon, regarded as one of Attilan's greatest rulers, convinced his wife, Rhinda, to expose their unborn child to Terrigenesis while she was pregnant, defying the genetic council. Their son, Blackhagar Boltagon, aka Black Bolt, was born with a voice so destructive that even a whisper could level a city. He was raised in isolation to master absolute control over his ability. Young Black Bolt was betrothed to his cousin Medusa, whose hair moved with strength and precision and obeyed her will. King Aegon then secretly urged relatives to expose their infants early, producing a remarkable generation of Inhumans, including Maximus, Black Bolt's brother, who was brilliant but unstable, Gorgon, whose hooves could unleash earthquakes, Triton, drastically altered into an aquatic beast, Crystal, who commanded the elements, and Karnak, who never underwent Terrigenesis but heavily trained to see the flaw in any object, tactic, or system. Finally, there was Lockjaw, a massive canine who was bonded to the royal family, who could teleport to nearly anywhere. You can learn more about Black Bolt, Medusa, and Crystal in their respective duel episodes against Shazam, Elongated Man, and Tempest. As humanity spread over the Earth, the Inhumans' secret existence came under threat. They at times clashed with frightened humans and suppressed alpha primitive revolts, but they also formed ties with Earth's heroes, such as the Fantastic Four, and sometimes even fought beside them. Inside Attilan, Maximus schemed to take the throne using devices, riots, and manipulation. Attilan endured kidnappings, invasions, and cycles of destruction and rebuilding. Eventually, the world learned that this hidden race existed, and Attilan was moved off of Earth to the blue area of the moon. Black Bolt's reign faced a personal crisis when he and Medusa conceived a child. The Genetics Council, fearing his bloodline, seized the infant and cut off parental contact. Medusa fled to Earth with members of the family while Maximus hounded them. When Black Bolt learned the council planned to use his son in his scheme against him, he turned on the council. He set aside the crown for a time, and the royals lived away from Attilan, returning when their people needed them. Eventually, Attilan returned to Earth, isolated in the Himalayan mountains. The Kree later returned to claim their rediscovered subjects. Ronan the Accuser struck from orbit, enslaving the Inhumans and forcing Black Bolt to lead missions against their rival alien empires, including the Shi'ar. He exiled Maximus and the Alpha Primitives to the Negative Zone and revealed that the Inhumans had been designed for infiltration, their traits meant to echo alien forms for espionage and assassination. He used them to sabotage ships and treaties and tried to force Black Bolt to assassinate the Shi'ar Empress. Black Bolt challenged Ronan to an honor duel, won, and forced Ronan to withdraw. Later, back on Earth, Crystal's husband Quicksilver stole Terrigen crystals in an attempt to regain his lost powers and help other depowered mutants. You can learn more about this in our Quicksilver vs. Flash Duel episode. The United States government seized the Terrigen crystals, and Black Bolt declared war pending their return. A strike to recover them caused many human deaths and hardened the world's opinion against Attilan. Though the crystals were finally reclaimed, Maximus seized control, and Attilan suffered devastating ruin. Not long after, Black Bolt was kidnapped and replaced by an imposter from the Skrulls, a shape-shifting alien race. The royal family, aided by the Kree, rescued Black Bolt from Skrull captivity and returned home. Seeking to escape the strife from the outside world once and for all, the Inhumans transformed Attilan into a starship powered by Black Bolt's voice, and they ventured into space. They flew to the Kree homeworld of Hala, where they overthrew the empire that once created them. A war with the Shi'ar followed, during which a Terrigen device called the T-Bomb apparently killed Black Bolt, and the rule then fell to Queen Medusa. The Alpha Primitives revolted, Maximus again sought the crown, and the Kree nobles resisted, eroding Inhuman control. It was discovered that the Kree had also altered other species long ago, not just humans. These universal Inhumans, as it were, traveled to Earth's moon and united with the returned Black Bolt, stopping an attempt by the Supreme Intelligence to attack Earth and retake control of the Kree. Abandoning Hala and returning back to their home planet, the Inhuman royal family rebuilt Attilan, this time in the clouds above New York City. Soon, the Mad Titan Thanos demanded that Attilan surrender all Inhumans within certain ages as tribute to him. Black Bolt realized that hidden within the demand was a hunt for Thanos' secret son, who was an Inhuman descendant. The royal family evacuated Attilan, and rather than submit to Thanos, Black Bolt destroyed the city with a shout. This triggered a Terrigen bomb built by Maximus that spread Terrigen across the globe and awakened powers in many people across Earth with dormant Inhuman genes. In the aftermath, Black Bolt went into exile for his actions, and Medusa rebuilt New Attilan, an independent nation open to all Inhumans. Crystal led a team aboard the Royal Inhumans transport to track the drifting Terrigen cloud and protect people about to change. Unfortunately, the cloud proved lethal to mutants. Fearing extinction, mutant leaders launched a preemptive strike against New Attilan, neutralizing most of the royal family and trapping them in a hostile dimension. After learning the full stakes of what was happening, Medusa destroyed the remaining Terrigen cloud herself. She abdicated the throne and passed leadership to the Inhuman people, installing a new Inhuman democracy. She and Black Bolt then reunited and journeyed into space, seeking the origins of Terrigen. Their search led to the discovery of Primogen, a mutagenic substance on which the Kree had based their creation of Terrigen. Traveling back to Earth, the family then founded a new Inhuman city called Arctalan on the moon. There, they were attacked by the Kree, who learned about the Inhumans' acquisition of Primogen and gave them an ultimatum: join the Kree or die. The Kree massacred Inhumans across space. Black Bolt summoned the leaders of the Universal Inhuman tribes to plan a response, but a Kree executioner named Vox ambushed the gathering, slaughtering the group. In the battle, Triton and Maximus were seemingly killed, and Black Bolt's throat was slit. After the remaining Inhuman population was imprisoned, the royal family escaped with help from Black Bolt's faint, returning voice. They learned that Vox was not a person, but a Kree program that converted prisoners into living weapons. Given a directive to acquire Primogen and weaponize the Inhumans, Vox converted the Inhuman population and embedded within them the code to restart the Vox program should he be destroyed. With one pained whisper, Black Bolt destroyed the engines that transmitted the Vox program, ending the Kree's plan and ending the lives of most of the Inhumans. The few survivors gathered, with Lockjaw teleporting them home. The former royals learned that they were just a few of the last remaining Inhumans. And that's the Inhumans' history so far. For this team duel, I'm obviously going with the members of the Inhuman royal family, as they're among some of the most prominent and important members of the Inhuman race. This includes Black Bolt, the former king of Adeline, who has the ability to absorb and convert electrons into a devastating energy he can unleash through his voice or channel into blasts, energy shields, or use to enhance his own physiology. Queen Medusa is next on my roster, who can psionically control every strand of her tensile hair. Crystal, her sister, is third on my team, able to control the 4 elements of fire, earth, air, and water. All 3 of them have their own duel episodes we've done, but the rest are new. I'm including Maximus, Black Bolt's brother, who is mentally unstable, but also a powerful telepath and genius strategist and inventor. Black Bolt's cousins round out the rest of the team. There's Karnak, the unparalleled fighter who can detect the weak point of anything, Gorgon, the brute who can create seismic shockwaves by stomping his hooves, and finally Triton, the scaly, water-breathing scout with twin curved short swords. And that's my team. I wanted to go with Lockjaw, trust me, but we're going to be saving him for a later Team Duel episode this year. If you're a fan of Lockjaw, you probably already know what that team is.
Hey, spoiler warning. Just listening to the Inhumans backstory again, I'm reminded of how good an Inhuman show should have been. Like, it should have been like sci-fi Game of Thrones.
Yeah, we've said that multiple times on this podcast, but it remains no less true. The television show should have been so much better.
Now, if you've listened to our team duels before, you know that we like to come up with comparable rosters, finding some kind of analog between characters of both sides. And this is just to make sure that we're going into this matchup as balanced as possible. Now, our matchups consist of Spartan and Black Bolt, since they're both the powerhouse leaders of each team, Warblade and Medusa.
Yeah, since they could both shapeshift parts of their bodies into weapons.
Void and Crystal.
One being able to control space-time, the other the elements. Voodoo versus Karnak, who both have the ability of sight, essentially. There's Maul and Gorgon, the brutes of each team. Maximus and Grifter, the telepaths, and Zealot and Triton, the weapon-wielding warriors.
Which I thought lined up perfectly, considering we're both going with like the base rosters for each of these teams, I would say.
For sure.
In a world where fantasies collide and heroes clash, one podcast network rises above the rest. Prepare yourself for the ultimate showdowns in comic books, video games, movies, and anime. The Dynamite Podcast Network presents Console Combat, where video game legends brawl every Monday. Dynamic Duel, where comic book titans smash every Tuesday. Max Destruction, where TV and action heroes battle every Wednesday. And Sendro World, where anime champions clash every Thursday. Join us as we speculate on the matches and, armed with the power of mathematical simulations, discover who will emerge victorious. Visit dynamicpodcast.com, where we settle the debate and settle the score.
But now that we've got the team's histories and rosters out of the way, let's speculate on how one of the thousands of simulated matches will go. The winner is determined by simulations, not the speculation, but it's fun to imagine how a fight could play out. AJ9K, what are the rules of our speculation?
Well, I should say there are no rules, other than the teams have no prior knowledge of the other going into the fight. All they are aware of starting out is that the other side is a threat that needs to be eliminated. For the speculation, the groups will begin approximately 50 meters apart in a nondescript environment that will have no bearing on the match itself, as no environmental statistics are considered in my simulations. The teams must earn victory on their own merit.
All right, then let's get into it. The WildCATs and the Inhumans meet on the battlefield. Who goes first?
I'm going to say Warblade starts things off for the WildCATs by extending his long metal fingers into the ground, at which point these long metal spears are going to shoot up beneath the Inhumans, impaling them through their torsos.
Damn!
That's how we do.
Well, Gorgon sees Warblade's hands go into the ground, And already suspecting something's up, he's going to quickly stomp the ground with one of his hooves, and that creates a seismic shock that like breaks each of Warblade's fingers in like 17 different locations. He's like, oh shit, my fingers! And this tremor that Gorgon creates also knocks each of the WildCATs members on their asses.
Okay, well, while on the ground, Grifter, he's just gonna mag dump his dual pistols while telekinetically curving the bullets so that each of the Inhumans gets 2 in the chest and 1 in the head, John Wick style.
Except that Black Bolt throws up an energy shield that's going to protect his family from all these bullets. And then with the shield up, Crystal summons a dust storm that affects the entire area of the battlefield around the WildCATs. And it's a heavy storm that blocks their vision. They can't see anything. But then suddenly they all start getting slapped around by a bunch of whips created by Medusa's hair, who extends her hair into the storm. And she could feel through it and just beat the shit out of them simultaneously while the WildCATs are inside.
Well, I mean, Void has a spatial sense on a planetary scale. So maybe a few WildCATs get hair whipped before Void teleports her entire team out of the dust storm behind the Inhumans, at which point Spartan is going to blast them all in the back with this sweeping plasma beam, blasting across the Inhumans and frying them.
That's a good move. Okay. I forgot that you guys can teleport. Yeah, the Inhumans would probably be taken by surprise by this. So they're all on the ground and like singed on their backs with third-degree burns. Except for Maximus, because his telepathy warned him of the attack because he could detect the WildCats' minds were behind them. So that gave him enough time to react and duck beneath the plasma beam. And while he's crouched down, he pulls out a sonic rifle he has that he's fueled with the same energy as Black Bolt's voice.
What?
Like whispers of Black Bolt, right? And he just lets Spartan have it. He fires the rifle and it punches a big basketball-sized hole right through Spartan's torso, and he drops to the floor. He's an android, right?
Yeah, and actually that's not going to take Spartan out. But while his android body is on the ground repairing itself, that's when Maul is going to fastball special Zealot, hurling her right at Maximus, blades first, and she straight up decapitates his ass.
No. She flies right into a force field he had set up, this negative zone barrier that was secretly activated in front of him. He set up like negative zone barriers all the time in the comic books, mostly around Adeline, but he has a personal force field too, in this case. And she crashes into it and slides down to the ground like a bird who just crashed into a window.
Dang.
By this point, the Inhumans have gotten up from the ground after dealing with Spartan's attack, and Crystal is going to whip up and hurl a firestorm at the WildCATs. It's just this big fiery tornado that's shooting fireballs, and it burns and just scatters the WildCATs team.
Okay, but Voodoo, she's going to mind lock Crystal for an instant, causing her mind to go blank, and the fire tornado is going to dissipate because of that. And with the fire gone, Warblade is going to shift his hands and feet into scissors, along with the ends of 8 metallic spider legs that he grows from his back, and he leaps at Medusa, chopping up any hair that may get in his way until he's able to get close enough to her to deliver a fatal stabbing.
Except I don't think he can cut her hair because it's too durable. It has like the tensile strength of iron wires.
And his blades can cut through anything.
But like traditionally, Medusa's hair can't be cut unless she wants it to be cut. But I also guess it stands to reason that something sharp enough to cut it would be able to do it. So, say Warblade's cutting her hair as she's defending herself, okay? Trying to fight him off. What Warblade doesn't know is that Medusa can still control any of her hair that's cut.
What?
So as he's trying to get to Medusa, he gets all tangled up in this mess of his own making. And so he's now just busy slashing and fighting at these hair strands, just flailing around. At that point, Karnak flips in, he sees Warblade's weak point, spots his opening, and then just karate chops Warblade's spine with like the force of a cannonball that just causes Warblade's liquid metal form to explode into like liquid metal droplets everywhere.
Okay, well meanwhile, thanks to Voodoo's gift of sight, she's able to see how Black Bolt is restraining himself from making vocalizations during the battle. So she uses her psychic ability to separate Black Bolt from his mental conditioning. And that's when Black Bolt looks at Gorgon, just confused, and is like, what just happened? Obliterating Gorgon.
Jeez. Well, if he has forgotten his mental conditioning, after he sees Gorgon just get obliterated, he's going to turn his head and be like, holy shit! And that's going to obliterate Zealot, who happened to be in front of him.
What?
So Zealot's out of the match as well. And then Maximus, who's insane, but he's not stupid, he knows he needs to silence his brother for the sake of everybody, right? So he telepathically reminds Black Bolt of his mental conditioning to stay mute.
Okay, but while Maximus is distracted, telepathically communicating with his brother, Grifter, an expert thief, is going to steal Maximus's sonic rifle from him, and he's going to use it to blow up Maximus.
Except that this gun, the sonic gun, is a weapon designed for Inhuman militia, so that means it's programmed only to respond to the genetic signature of an Inhuman. So Grifter tries to shoot Maximus, but instead the gun just explodes in his hands. And now Grifter's arms are gone. And before Grifter can even process what just happened, Triton leaps by him and takes off his head with one of his curved blades.
What? Wait. First of all, the Terrigen Mist is like a gas, right?
Correct.
Well, the gen factor that Grifter inhaled was also a gas. What if it's like the Wildstorm Terrigen Mist, making Grifter an Inhuman?
No, I'm sorry. Not genetically.
Whatever. Grifter's gone, but he is a demolitions guy who's like armed to the teeth with various explosive gadgets inside his trench coat. So he may be dead, but the explosion from Maximus's gun sparks an igniter on one of his grenades. And when that goes off, all of his explosives go off, killing Triton as well. And, Maximus is probably pretty injured too, I'm sure.
All right, okay, so Triton is out, Grifter's out. While this is all happening, Karnak is fighting Maul. And Karnak is dodging Maul's attacks just with like super efficiency, striking all of his pressure points. So Maul's not even really able to land a hit on Karnak. And Karnak is going to strike a nerve in Maul's legs, which is going to drop Maul to his knees. And then Karnak leaps up and finger strikes him right in between the eyes, which is a weak spot that makes his brain explode inside his head. So now Maul's out.
Well, except at the last second, though, Maul's going to shrink his body down to the size of a thimble in order to dodge Karnak's attack. And at that size, he's a super genius because, his size correlates with his intellect. And he's going to deduce Karnak's one weakness, which is his insides. So Maul's going to shrink down, jump into Karnak's booty before expanding to skyscraper size and just obliterating Karnak.
Did you just Thanos Karnak?
You're damn right I did!
What are you, 9? Why did he go in through the butthole?
Because he could.
Anyway, Maul is now the size of a skyscraper, you say, but that means he's dumb as a rock, okay?
Fair.
So suddenly he starts beating the shit out of his own teammates. He smashes Spartan, before he can finish repairing his android body. He just smacks Void across the horizon, and he pummels Voodoo into the ground with his fists. All of this because now he's being mind-controlled by Maximus.
Oh. Well, Maul is said to be fairly psychic resistant because of his decreased intellect at giant size.
No, well, the reason I did this is because actually the more mindless that a subject is, the more susceptible they are to Maximus's mind control. Like, that's why Maximus is so good at controlling the alpha primitives.
Really? Okay. Wait, so, Spartan's finished? But we'll say that as Void is sailing across the horizon, she's going to teleport back to the battle and rescue Voodoo from Maul's attack, just in time. And with Voodoo using her gift of sight to be able to recognize who's controlling Maul, that's when she transforms into her Daemonite demonic form and just tears into Maximus, ripping him to shreds while he's distracted. And meanwhile, you remember how Warblade was sort of scattered everywhere by Karnak's attack?
Yeah.
Well, that would not kill him, because eventually all of those metallic droplets would find their way back to each other, sort of like T-1000. And so we'll say by this point, enough of Warblade's scattered droplets have coalesced to form a long hammer, which Maul, by this point back to 10 feet tall or so, picks up and proceeds to pummel Crystal into the ground.
Okay, so Warblade is back from being exploded, and
Yes.
he's just a hammer now.
Right.
Is he like a hammer with Warblade's face?
Yes, actually, specifically that.
Okay, I wasn't sure if he was just like an inanimate object now.
No.
But Crystal's gonna handle this liquid metal guy the same way you would handle any liquid metal guy. She's gonna freeze the hammer. so that shatters when Maul swings it. So Warblade's gone for good now. Maul's confused because his hammer broke on him, and at that point, Crystal fills Maul's lungs with water, and he drowns.
Oh, okay. Well, Crystal, she's just gonna get lasered in half at the torso at this time by one of Void's quantum beams. So she's out. And as that happened, Voodoo brought Maul back as a zombie using her voodoo knowledge, and she's gonna control Maul to choke out Black Bolt. And that's gonna prevent him from using his voice as he suffocates and dies.
No, because before Black Bolt suffocates, Medusa is going to take a page from Maul's playbook and destroy him from the inside, okay? But she's not like a pervert like he is. She goes in through his ears. So her hair infiltrates Maul's skull through his ears, and she just scrambles his zombie brain to mush, all right? And with Black Bolt free, he's just going to take out both Void and Voodoo by shouting, like, "You guys suck!" And they're just obliterated from his voice, and the Inhumans win.
Wait, he obliterates both of them? Do you think they were standing like right next to each other? Because they weren't.
Says who?
Me, bro. We'll say that Voodoo freezes time just before the sound waves reach her, and that's going to allow Void to set up a portal that catches all of those sonic waves and redirects them through another portal lined up to hit both Medusa and Black Bolt. So they're dead instead, and the WildCATs win.
No, you can't just dictate where people are on the battlefield. I'm saying that Void and Voodoo were standing next to each other, and they didn't have enough time to react to Black Bolt's shout.
Wait, I can't, but you can?
Yes!
I mean, saying they didn't have enough time to react, also, by the way, Void literally controls space-time. So she'll just go back in time if they didn't.
Void's a bum, okay? We could go ahead and leave the match there. Either one of two things happens. Either Black Bolt shouts Void and Voodoo out of existence, or they're able to redirect his blast, and Black Bolt ends up taking himself and Medusa out. Let's go ahead and input the team stats, run these simulations, and find out which of the scenarios happens when we come back with a winner.
AJ9K, hit it.
Inputting data, running calculations, processing results. Simulations complete.
All right, that was a crazy matchup. Both of these teams have some really powerful members. There's actually a good variety among both teams. They had a lot in common. They had a lot that was not in common, but breaking it all down, the teams were actually even when it came to intelligence and versatility.
Right. The biggest discrepancy they had actually came down to durability, considering basically all of the WildCATs characters have healing factors.
Yeah, they're all Wolverine wannabes. Like, the Inhumans have an accelerated rate of healing compared to normal humans, but it's not crazy fast like Wolverine's, and it's not fully regenerative either. My most durable guys were Black Bolt, Gorgon, and Triton. People like Medusa, Crystal, Karnak, and Maximus just didn't have the same level of durability. But the Inhumans did have the advantage when it came to the category of range. Black Bolt, Crystal, and Maximus, and even Gorgon, have tremendous range with their attacks. You know, Maximus being a psychic, Black Bolt with his shouts, Crystal with her elemental powers, and Gorgon with his seismic stomps.
Yeah, when you're going up against elemental powers with, like, bullets and blades and stuff like that, it's not quite as effective. My strongest character on my side was Spartan, followed up by Void, and my weakest character was actually Warblade.
Yeah, my strongest character obviously was Black Bolt, and the weakest member of the Inhuman family is actually Karnak. Probably because he never underwent Terrigenesis. And, you know, he's really good at finding weak spots and striking to defeat them. And he was smart, but he didn't have those, like, superhuman stats that his cousins and his brother have.
Yeah, Karnak only won about a quarter of his matches. He won 27.9 of the total matches that he was in, which was not the lowest win rate. Actually, Warblade had the lowest at 26% even.
Yeah, and Black Bolt had the highest win rate individually, winning 81.3% of all of his matches.
And that was actually the highest win rate overall, because my highest win rate was 79.9%, held by Spartan. So taking all of these figures and stats into account, Joseph, who do you think came out on top?
Inhumans. They have the most powerful member. Black Bolt had the highest win rate. They're a pretty well-rounded team. I'm going to give it to the royal family.
You would.
And Instagram agrees with me, with 63% of our poll respondents siding with the Inhumans, saying that they would defeat the WildCATs.
Well, let's see if you jerks are correct. AJ9K, the results, please.
Here you are, sir.
The winner of the team duel matchup between WildCATs and Inhumans is the WildCATs.
Son of a bitch! No!
The WildCATs won 52.5% of their matches compared to the Inhumans, who only won 47.5%. And honestly, I'm kind of as surprised as you are.
I thought the Inhumans were going to take this. I mean, they have fucking Black Bolt. He would just start off the match by going, screw you guys, and then it would be over.
But yeah, Void could, just, again, teleport all of that energy back at them. The Inhumans had Black Bolt, but the WildCATs had Spartan and Void and Grifter, each of whom had over a 60% win rate. My guys overall were just a little bit more powerful. Honestly, I think it really came down to the defensive stats. Having a healing factor really helps in battle, as it turns out.
I'm horribly depressed now. I was expecting to go into this with the Inhumans win to give them some kind of victory and make up for all the disappointments that fans have encountered with them over the years. And here's just another one to add to the fucking list.
Honestly, I think it's time to give up on the Inhumans. They have nothing going for them.
I think it's time for you to give up
on
general.
life.
Life. You piece of shit.
Jeez.
But that is it for this duel, guys. AJ9K help close this out.
Thanks for listening to Dynamic Duel. Visit the show's website at dynamicduel.com and follow us on Instagram at Dynamic Duel Podcast. You can support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/dynamicduel and joining a tier that works for you, or by rating and reviewing Dynamic Duel on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, or on our website. Don't forget to listen to the other shows in the Dynamite Podcast Network, including Max Destruction, Senjo World, and Console Combat.
Our next episode, we don't actually know what the next episode is going to be yet because we have yet to have our monthly meeting with our executive producers who will determine what the next episode is. So next week will be a surprise for you guys. Hope you enjoy it. And if you want to help make those decisions, be sure to become an executive producer on Patreon.
But that does it for this episode. We want to give a big thanks to our executive producers, John Starosky,
Zachary Hepburn,
Dustyn Balcom,
Miggy Matanguihan,
Nathaniel Wagner,
Levi Yeaton,
Austin Wesolowski,
AJ Dunkerley,
Nick Abanto,
Scott Camacho,
Gil Camacho,
Adam Speas,
Dean Maleski,
Devin Davis,
Joseph Kersting,
Josh Liner,
Mike Williams,
Oscar Galvez,
and Paul Graves for helping make this podcast possible. We'll talk to you guys next week. Up, and away!
True believers.
The amalgam version of these two teams would be the Cat Humans, and it would be about the lives of humans, and they own cats.